Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into an absolutely fascinating piece of Indian literature, Ruskin Bond's famous short story, The Cherry Tree. Now, at first glance, you might think, okay, it's just a simple story about a plant. But honestly, as we dig a little deeper, it reveals this incredibly layered exploration of resilience, the steady march of time, and that unbreakable connection between us and the natural world. I want you to think about this for a quick second. Have you ever planted a seed and just watched it grow into a literal miracle? It's a deeply relatable experience, right? You've got that mix of hope, patience, and eventually, just total awe. Well, this exact feeling is the beating heart of our explainer today. We're going to explore how the quiet, simple act of nurturing life can completely transform not just the environment around us, but the actual person doing the nurturing.
All right, let's dive right in and look at the actual catalyst of our story. We meet a 6-year-old boy named Rakesh. He lives with his wise grandfather on the outskirts of Mussoorie, and he's just bought this bunch of super sweet cherries from Kashmir in the local bazaar. He eats practically all of them, but keeps the very last seed just rolling around in his mouth. And when he asks his grandfather if cherry seeds are lucky, his grandfather delivers this absolutely crucial piece of advice. Nothing is lucky if you put it away. If you want luck, you must put it to some use. It's such a profound life lesson for a kid, right? Basically, raw potential requires real action.
So, here is our roadmap for today. We are looking at planting the seed, surviving the seasons, growing up together, the underlying themes and symbolism, and finally some real-world forest heroes.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, Planting the Seed. So, taking his grandfather's advice completely to heart, Rakesh takes that single sticky cherry seed and presses it into a soft, shady corner of the garden where the soil is yielding. And then, well, life happens. Rakesh is just a young boy. He gets distracted playing, going to school, and actually, he totally forgets about the seed. But you know what? Nature doesn't forget. While he's busy just being a kid, that little seed is quietly germinating down in the dark earth. And when Rakesh eventually spots this tiny, super vulnerable twig pushing its way up into the light, it sparks the beginning of a truly profound journey of responsibility.
That brings us to Section 2, Surviving the Seasons. This timeline really beautifully illustrates how Ruskin Bond crafts his narrative. You'll notice he doesn't use specific dates or years to mark time. Instead, he uses the changing seasons like a living, breathing calendar. The seed is planted with the early monsoon rains. Then, it's brutally tested by the freezing Himalayan winter, literally bending low under the heavy weight of the snow. But it pushes through. And eventually, it rewards Rakesh and his grandfather with its very first pale pink blossoms in the spring.
But let me be crystal clear here. This growth was not a walk in the park. Look at the severe hardships this fragile little plant faced. First off, a stray goat wanders into the garden and eats all its tender leaves, leaving literally just the main stem. Talk about a setback. Then, just as it's finally bouncing back, a woman cutting grass accidentally slices it clean in half with her scythe. And then, of course, comes the crushing winter snow. When Rakesh is practically in despair over all this, grandfather drops another gem of wisdom. Cherry trees are tough. This completely sets up the story's incredible theme of resilience. It shows us that survival isn't passive, it's an active, determined fight.
Moving right along to Section 3, Growing Up Together. Check out this direct comparison between Rakesh's emotional development and the tree's physical growth. Bond gives us this gorgeous, almost poetic parallel between the two of them. We start out with an innocent, playful 6-year-old and a super vulnerable little seed. But as the years roll by, Rakesh learns patience, he learns care, and he learns the sheer effort required to protect something smaller than himself. By the time Rakesh is a sturdy 9-year-old, the tree has actually grown taller than he is. It blossoms, it bears these slightly sour cherries, and it stands there as this massive, shared symbol of their enduring bond.
Now, as the tree grows, it basically becomes its own miniature world, which brings us to a really fascinating question. Why in the world did Rakesh let the bright green praying mantis stay on the branches, but actively remove the hairy caterpillar?
Well, the answer lies in Rakesh's growing protective instincts. He realized the praying mantis wasn't actually harming the tree, so he was more than happy to welcome this first little visitor. But the caterpillar was munching on the tree's hard-earned leaves. But here's the kicker. Rakesh doesn't act out of anger. He doesn't crush it. He just gently drops the caterpillar to the ground and tells it, "Come back when you are a butterfly." I mean, how striking is that detail? It highlights his deep respect for nature's cycles and shows just how incredibly gentle and nurturing this boy has become. All right, now that we've traced the plot, let's shift gears for Section 4, Themes and Symbolism.
You know, Ruskin Bond weaves abstract concepts into the text so smoothly that you almost don't even notice the mechanics of it. Look at how he uses imagery, like describing the pale pink blossom at the end of a branch. It paints this incredibly vivid, tactile picture right in our minds. But his use of personification, that is where the magic really happens. Describing the leaves as being always ready to dance literally gives human qualities to the tree. It makes the cherry tree feel not just like some random prop in the background, but like an active, living, breathing character in its own right.
And it's through those clever devices that three core themes really emerge. First up, man and nature. The story is an absolute masterclass in showing the symbiotic bond between humans and our environment. Second, growth and patience. We live in a world of instant gratification, right? But Rakesh's story proves the immense, lasting value of sustained attention over years. And third, resilience. The tree's survival, despite facing devastating adversity, perfectly mirrors our own human ability to overcome hardships, adapt, and eventually flourish.
So all of these themes beautifully culminate in one breathtaking emotional climax. Rakesh, who is now older, reaches out and touches the smooth bark of the mature tree that he grew from one single tiny seed. He looks up at the bulbils and scarlet minivets just flying around in its branches, and he whispers, "Is this what it feels to be God?" Now, it's absolutely crucial to understand that this isn't about arrogance, not at all. It's about profound awe. It's that existential wonder of having nurtured a complex living ecosystem into existence through sheer patience and love.
For our final section, we are moving from the fictional hills of Mussoorie out into the real world with Section 5, Real-World Forest Heroes.
It turns out, Rakesh's fictional journey actually parallels some massive real-world environmental movements in India. The text highlights some truly incredible figures. People like Sundalar Bahuguna, who led the famous Chipko movement, where villagers literally hugged trees to prevent commercial loggers from destroying the Himalayan forests. It also mentions Padma Shri awardee Salamarada Thamaka, who is honestly an absolute superwoman. She has planted over 8,000 trees in her lifetime. These heroes are living proof that the lessons Rakesh learned have vital, real-world applications for global conservation.
And then, there is Jadav Payeng, widely known as the Forest Man of India. 40 million. That is enough to make your jaw drop, right? Over the course of 30 years, Payeng single-handedly planted nearly 40 million trees. He literally turned 1,000 acres of completely barren wasteland in Assam into a lush, green sanctuary that is now home to incredible wildlife and migratory birds. He lived out Rakesh's fictional journey on a scale that is just epic and almost unimaginable. Which brings us to the end of our explainer today, and to a thought I really want to leave you with. We've seen how Rakesh's tiny cherry seed became a resilient, life-giving tree, and how Jadav Payeng's seeds became a 40 million tree sanctuary. So, if one single seed can teach resilience, create life, and literally build a forest, what will you plant today? Whether it's a physical seed in your garden, or maybe just a seed of an idea in your own life, remember grandfather's advice. Potential only becomes lucky when you actually put it to use. Thank you so much for joining me to explore this wonderful text. Keep learning, keep growing, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.